Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It is the most earth-breaking, ground-shaking, but never media show money-taking, the man, the myth, the legend, the most electrifying YouTuber in all of YouTube entertainment today, Gerald Zod. And today, I'm going to do a review. Been controversial. This movie has ruffled feathers with certain parts of the internet. And if you've been on my channel for any amount of time, you know, I just tell you guys by my own personal experience. This is a little bit different for two reasons. One, I'm a Chris Nolan fan. I'm not a fanboy. I don't think all of his work is great. I have some issues with a couple of his movies. As far as it goes, everyone was crazy about Oppenheimer. I didn't even really do a review. I found it a great movie in parts, but pretty long and drawn out. Cillian Murphy was tremendous, whatever. And I'm prefacing all this to say that the Odyssey is a little bit different for me because of the fact that I don't put historical context on a lot of these kind of movies, especially in Hollywood. Inevitably, their adaptations are never good, ever historically accurate. So I don't approach them from their angle. But with this particular movie, there are things that from the original works, and I'm going to be comparing this a lot to something that wasn't influential to me growing up. I don't know if you guys know, but this has been adapted twice, and once was a TV miniseries in 1997. And to me, that was my first experience with the Odyssey. And I remember at the time I was writing a report on it, and I saw this movie as kind of a way to get a good understanding of the lay of the land, what the story was and stuff. And I did read the original works. If you went to high school back in the day and even college, and as you guys know, I do writing. So in writing courses, the Iliad and the Odyssey is like one of the big things that you study, that you look at as a piece of fiction that has been written. And I want to highlight something before I even discuss this movie. It is fiction. Like, there are some historical cities used, the whole Greek mythology and things like that, that is rooted in some truths. But I think the first thing to knock out and get out of the way is this is a fictionized tale based on a really old poem that is beloved and cherished by a lot. Now, people who come at this from the historical angle, that some things might not jive, that argument I understand. The second part that I will touch on briefly, but I think it's been way overblown, is the casting choices for this. There's been rumors that are just bullshit, haven't seen the movie, and things that have been talked about this movie that are uncategorically not true at all. And I'm going to be doing both a non-spoiler and a spoiler review of this, so because I feel like I want to get into the nitty-gritty of this and not necessarily spoil things right away for those who want to see, but just things that I have to talk about to my negatives of the film that are inherently spoilers. I'm not going to spoil the ending and major plot beats, but I will be talking about certain scenes and things like that to make some points. So some of this will be non-spoiler. I'll give you a warning when I get into scenes and things that didn't jive with me. So I want to get some things out of the way so I could do a proper review, because I know everybody's going to click on to see, oh, which side are you taking? And look, I got to give a little bit of preference here. I've been on the whole side of with Star Wars and things like that, and that whole debate. And when I watch a movie, I don't go in with that mindset. I want to judge the movie based on its merits and not the rumors and the casting and all that. I want to see how the people fit the roles. Now, is there something to be said about maybe casting more accurate to the regions? Yeah, yes. But that's been a non-thing for fucking years now. So I'm just going to take that out of the way. I want to see if the performers are suited for the roles. That's my biggest gripe with some particular casting in this movie, and not who's casted and why they're casted. I think it's important, especially when you're talking about things like that, is a story constructed simply for buzz, or was there passion in it? and that people actually gave a shit about the material they were adapting. And I do believe that not only does Nolan have something to say in this film, but the casting is very intentional given the story he's telling. And once again, when I get into spoilers, I will put a banner on to let you know. But I'm going to have to spoil some things in order to bring up my points, because I feel like it's been overblown as the internet does these days. So I'm going to be addressing all of that. What up, Jane? What's up? Yes. I never read the book, any of the adaptations. I heard the Odyssey was crazy and he imagined the whole thing. Yeah. And I'm going to get into some of that. Thank you for bringing that up, because this review that I want to do, because this movie hit me in a way I haven't been hit by a big blockbuster in many years. And I'm going to preference it like this. If you're coming to this review for me to shit on this movie, you've clicked on the wrong video and jump on off. I don't need fucking stupid comments. But if you want to hear some actual in-depth description and me giving good reasons for why things are good and why things aren't, then stick around and listen to my points, and hopefully I could give a good critique. And I'm just going to right out of the way, get this out of my way. You've seen the title. This is definitely going to be in my top 10 movies of this year, not my horror list. I have to do two separate lists. I do a top 10 for horror movies and a top 10 for, let's say, blockbusters, dramas, all that shit have their own category, which Dune and Spider-Man and things like that will be in that bracket. And I got to say, for years, I've been waiting. I've been hungry for that blockbuster movie. And we have just not gotten any good ones. Moana was fucking trash. And Toy Story 5 was decent, but that's more of a family film. Like, I wanted a blockbuster, balls to the wall, with some emotions and with some big scale action. And I'm not going to say this is the biggest scale. This is Chris Nolan. He's just the biggest I've seen him gone maybe is Inception. Like, he's not, to me, one of those directors where I would pick him to do, let's say, an epic like this and make it as grandiose as people imagine. And I'm going to just break that illusion right now. This movie is epic, but I don't feel the armies and the battlings were as epic as, like, say, Troy. And I don't know why people hate that movie. I love Troy. You know, come at me or whatever. There's something about that movie. It's got the cool factor. The battles are fucking amazing in it. And it really gives you that feeling of the war before the Odyssey. Another big thing, and I want to get out of the way right now before I start this review, because I know people are always searching for this. Elliot Page. And I'm getting this shit out of the way because this is the most ridiculous fucking thing that's been going around. Elliot Page is not Achilles. Spoilers, I guess. Achilles is not in this, and I'll tell you why if you fucking morons read. The Odyssey is not about necessarily the war in Troy. The Odyssey is the journey of Odysseus after the war. And these people who want to be historically accurate and want to get all mad on the internet, if they actually fucking read the text, which, by the way, is like 24 books, and the Odyssey is literally one poem, then they would know that the journey is of Odysseus. So if you know how the battle turns out, Achilles died during the war, which means he's not necessarily in even the taking of Troy itself. He is killed, which they lose hope of taking Troy until Odysseus comes up with the plan of the Trojan horse. Yeah, I love history. I know my history. So that was never an issue for me. But I thought it would have been kind of ridiculous if Nolan did do the casting, but Elliot Page is not Achilles. He plays a character in the film called, hold on, because I had to pull up the casting for this just so I don't get things wrong. I don't want people coming at me here. Let me see. I have a hard time with these names because it's all like Greek kind of names. And if you guys been on my channel, you know, for Zod, the English language is my second language. Anyways, jokes aside, he plays a soldier who fights under Odysseus, and has a pretty significant emotional payoff. And I'll kind of leave it at that so I don't spoil it. Senno, There we go. Seno, who was a Greek soldier actually in the war. Hey, what's up, JK? I was screwing around. I read the middle school, so you're not spoiling anything. Good. Even if you read it, there's some things changed, and that goes to my complaints. But when I get into my spoilers, I'll talk about that because there is some things left out and some things that weren't in the movie that I felt would have given it that extra punch. But I'll get to that later. This is going to be a bit of a review, so grab your popcorn, grab your snacks. I'm going to give you a full breakdown, but I want to get these things out of the way because they're the stupidest, most ridiculous things that the internet loses their shit about before actually going to see a movie. And it's why I kind of distanced myself and started doing reviews the way that I do with the people that I do, because when I judge a movie, I want to judge it on the movie itself and not what the perception of the film is. Now, when you have things like Black Christmas, which was one of the most horrendous movies I have ever seen, that is clearly trying to send a message. But Nolan has never been that kind of director. And so I had no ill will. I had no doubts. I knew Nolan was going to produce something. But the question is, did he produce something off this great work that we can put into his top echelon of films? And I'll get to it. I'm going to give this a high score, but when I place this in other Nolan movies or amongst his other films, there are films better. And I'm going to do a ranking for you guys, maybe live. If you would like that, I will rank all of Nolan's films from worst to best, because for me, Christopher Nolan hasn't missed. But, you know, the movies I like the least versus the movies I like the most, which is going to fucking suck. So, hey, how are you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. Sorry, I'm getting in my zone. But anyway, so the Odyssey is the story of a man named Odysseus, and it is the tale of how Odysseus wins the war, and he, on his journey to get back to his wife Penelope, played by the amazingly beautiful, stunning, great actress Anne Hathaway. Yes, I have a bit of a thing for Anne, so, you know, don't judge here, but she's gorgeous, and holy fuck, I will get to my MVPs in this movie, but if she doesn't win an award for this role, I don't know what to say. So anyways, he's trying to get home to Penelope. He has not seen his son, Odysseus, played by Tom Holland, and he's missed a lot of stuff that goes on. And in the meantime, at his home, there are suitors, because he's been gone for about 10 years, trying to take his home and weasel their way into his kingdom. And that's just the gist of it. I was really hoping Elliot Page was going to be Achilles just to see people going ape shit. I mean, Nolan, I feel like, so here's the thing. I feel like Nolan was trolling us a little bit. Because he was very vague and didn't say anything. And I think in this age, the best thing to do is to not say anything and let your product speak for itself. And I'm here to tell you, people are talking about rumors of movie theaters aren't going to pack, blah, blah, blah. I could not buy tickets to 2 shows, which is why I didn't review this on Friday. By my theater, at least, they were sold out. I went to see it in IMAX, and they were sold out for the next week. And that's not even an exaggeration. Like, I went through every day. There's just no way to get IMAX tickets right now, except for during the day. And so I decided to see this one at noon today. And I even saw it in a small theater without the IMAX, and the theater was fucking packed with people at noon. This movie is going to do ridiculous numbers. Anybody who says this isn't going to make any money, or claiming, oh, it's third in the box office, so it's not doing good, shut the fuck up. That you're just being weird. Okay. I think there's a point to be made about calling out shit and then overblowing things, or just perceiving things to be something that they're not. And this movie is very much focused on the story of Odysseus. And there is a bigger theme I'll get into, but I won't do it quite yet because I don't want to do spoilers. I'm just going to give you the gist. And once I put my spoiler banner on, then we're going to go balls deep. This might be a 3-hour epic review because I've got a lot to say, and most of it positive. So I'm going to get my negatives out of the way first. one of the biggest negatives in this movie, and it's been said and overblown once again by the internet, is that the dialect. Holy fuck. I'm not going to lie. The first 20 minutes of this film, it is very jarring to kind of get past the modern talk. Now, they're not going up to each other. You don't see people going up to each other going, "What's up, dog? Like, we got to go home and get these peeps back to whatever." You know what I mean? It's not like that bad, but there is scenes, and there's a notorious clip on the internet of Tom Holland going, "Where's my dad?" That's been circulating, and in the scene itself really doesn't help. There's more context to why he's saying it, and there's stuff the clip cut out that makes it make sense. But I just kind of wish they didn't have to go old English, but instead of saying dad, maybe say father, mother, that kind of a thing. Just give it kind of a more of an ancient feel so that you're not pulling me out of the immersion of being back in a society. The other thing, which is kind of fucking astonishing to me, but these people always complain about, is the casting of nobody casts Greeks. And like, look, this has been an argument for like years now. Like, there's been people arguing that you should cast someone with a disability to play a role of someone who has a disability and all of this. And I've always landed on the side, you should cast who's perfect for it. That being said, with historically accurate period pieces, yes, you should 100% cast people from the region if you're making that kind of film. And one thing I think the people fail to see is this is a fucking fiction. Zeus does not exist, and hopefully I don't get struck with a lightning ball. Athena, Ares, Hades, none of these were real, and the Odyssey itself is a work of fiction based upon battles that may or may not have happened. It's very old text, very old tablets, very unreliable narrators. The story is out of order. It's one of those things where I feel like creative liberties aren't necessarily the worst. That being said, Nolan over the past couple of years has casted a lot of people because he can and not necessarily because he should. And one of my bigger issues with casting is not necessarily the people chosen, but whether or not we couldn't have gotten someone unknown who could have played the role and really showed their stuff. That being said, there are some fucking standout performances in this. And of course, when you have this list, you would not expect less from this. Now, the biggest one I am split with, and I'll start off with right away, is Matt Damon. Matt Damon, to me, is a great actor. He's done great works. He's always bringing his fucking A game. Now, I'm coming from the 1997 movie on this one. The original one that I saw in 97 was played by an actor called Armand Anthony Assailant Jr., who was also in a television film in the 1996 movie Gotti. He was also in one of my guilty pleasures, Judge Dredd, and he was fucking amazing in that. And he was the first version of Odysseus that I saw. And he was absolutely awesome. And the villain or the main suitor in that version was played by Eric Roberts, who's a fucking legend. So coming into this, Matt Damon versus this actor, I think Matt Damon doesn't nail exactly the intelligence that Odysseus is supposed to showcase in this film. That being said, he's not stupid, but I don't think that Nolan focuses on the brilliant military strategist aspect of the Odysseus character as much as he could have. And I think very specifically, I don't know if Matt Damon could have nailed that aspect of the character. Not saying he's a bad actor, but there's just certain things where actors are good at specific roles, and especially Matt Damon has honed very specific skills. And I don't think that for this role, he really brings out that part of him. That being said, I don't know how old Matt Damon is, but holy fucking shit did that man commit to this role. There's a couple of scenes with him with his shirt off, and I got to tell you, a little bit jealous, a little bit of jelly here. He fucking commits to this role. And like, there's there's a scene in particular that's very physical, and Matt D does not let us down. Also, Anne Hathaway. I'm not just saying this because I'm totally in love with Anne Hathaway, but like I said, her performance is so subtle yet understated as this mother who is husbandless for 10 years, who's trying to hold her house together while these suitors are in it here, basically violating the sanctity of their home. And it has to be played in a certain way. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. Anne Hathaway fucking nails it. You see her vulnerability and you see her underlining strength in her character. This vicious sort of motherly bear that she's got going on with trying to protect her son, trying to hold the house together. I think it was actually brilliant casting. So with that, you'd say, hey, what's up, PB? I know you can't join me on this because you haven't seen the movie yet, but casting people so you can win an Oscar. And I'm not going to lie to you. My other big issue that I have with this film, besides the casting, and I've said this about a couple of times in my reviews, I hate movies casted just for the sole purpose of going for an Oscar. And I don't think the casting's DEI or all that bullshit that people spit. I think this is more of a award season bait. And you know what? Good for him. I don't fucking blame him. If you got those people on speed dial, whatever. But do they fit the role? Well, let's give our VIPs. I talked about two of them. Matt Damon is excellent. Anne Hathaway is McQueen. Let's talk about the third standout. Mr. Twilight himself. Robert Pattinson in this movie plays by far the scummiest, biggest piece of shit, and he's chewing the scenery. If there's another person to get an award who probably won't get nominated, because I think Pattinson won one Oscar. I'm not, don't quote me on that, but if he hasn't, like, this man is due. In this movie, he is eating up the scenery, man. He is hammy as fuck, and it works for the character he's playing. He plays the part of hold on a second, Antius. There we go. Antius, who's this scumbag piece of shit, highbrow, high society kind of person. Yes, exactly. I agree. Definitely. It is definitely not DEI. It's Academy boxes. Definitely a different boxing. I agree 100%. But with that being said, Pattinson is loving this movie. And I think one thing to point out that's the biggest strength of this movie, and I'll get into the technical stuff, which is why this is going to take me some time to review this. The love and care and the commitment by the actors is there. Now, we've got to talk about the most controversial, Elliot Page. Elliot Page gets a good performance, actually. Elliot Page is not Achilles. Achilles is not in the fucking movie. Stop being weird, internet. Achilles was never going to be in the movie because Nolan adapted the Odyssey, which is after the Iliad. And as I explained in the beginning of this stream, the Iliad is the war, the Odyssey is the journey back home. And so very intentionally, there is a couple of lines where Nolan actually justifies why people are cast the way they are. And the second biggest one that lit the internet on fire, Helen of Troy. Look, here's the thing. I love Lupita Nyong'o. And in this movie, fuck what the internet says. For the very small, I mean, she's got like maybe 2 minutes of screen time. She fucking brings it. And there's a very interesting line that's said in the film where they bring up the point that should be the point of the movie. The war is not about Helen of Troy. The war is about Agamemnon wanting the trade routes. He used his brother's love as an excuse to go to war. And it's kind of a theme of this movie, of man's nature, of why we go to war, of love, of loss, of what you would do to get back home to the person that you love, and the struggle that you face with yourself when you have to do horrible things in war. Now, if you guys don't know, I was in the service, and so I have a very strong attachment to movies, especially with these kind of themes. I'm the target audience for it. And I think Nolan handles those themes very well. And he has a very strong through line in this movie, not only about what it means to go to war, but the consequences of war. And not only of war, but of man and our nature, and how there's also, when I get into spoilers with it, I'll explain there's a particular message that I like towards the end of this film, where you leave this movie with all the feelings that you are expecting to leave this movie with. But man, I was trying to do my negatives. They're very few. So obviously, but Elliot Page, I have an issue, and it's one. The portrayal, the soldier that Elliot Page is portraying, there's a very noticeable screw up. Now, when you see Robert Pattinson's character, his younger version looks like him, but Elliot Page's younger version does not, and for obvious reasons. And I'm not going to open that can of worms, okay? I don't give a fuck where people land with it, but obviously there was not going to be an actor unless that would have been able to get the exact look because of obvious reasons, okay? I don't want to dive into that whole fucking thing. But with that being said, the scene and the significance of what the character means, and I'll explain in spoilers in a little bit more detail, is a good thought. But it is one of my issues because I think it's handled very clunky. Also, too, it's been a issue of mine with Nolan. I think starting with Tenet, really. The fucking sound. I was in a small theater. I wasn't even in the IMAX. But Nolan has had a problem with his last couple of movies where the audio is like cranked the fuck up. And like, it's not every scene like Oppenheimer was for me, which was a miserable experience. But it's like, there's a couple of really important moments in this movie where I just fucking couldn't hear people because, like, I get Nolan's trying to get everything around to give you that realistic feel, but it just gets kind of really intense and hurts the ears. The Iliad is the greatest war and anti-war novel. It glorifies the idea of true horrors. Men throughout it break down, cry. Yep, and I'll get to that. I'll get to that. Yeah, open the worms. Yeah, but yeah. So here's the thing: the sound is also one of those issues that I take with the film because Nolan's sound correction, and I don't know if he needs a new sound guy or what the fuck is going on there. But for God's sakes, Nolan, please, for the love of fuck, change up the mixing. I don't know if it's sound mixing because I'm not a sound guy. I'm better with the story structure because obviously I'm writing, and which, by the way, my book is almost done. I'll have more announcements on the way. But as a writer, I can only comment on characters and characterization and story motivation, but sound is not my big thing. I don't know what exactly the issue is. If it's mixing, if it's post-edit, if it's the guy who fucking is third editing department dude who is supposed to adjust some knobs. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it's not as noticeable as Oppenheimer. But there is certain scenes where I just lost a little bit of the impact because it was too fucking loud. And I know that's ironic because people are going to be like, well, you go to the theater and you're in IMAX and it's supposed to be loud. Yes, it's supposed to be loud. That's why you go to the experience, but it's not supposed to be overpoweringly loud to where I can't hear the actors acting. Then that is where it becomes an issue. So the soundscape's a little wonky, which is one of my point deductions here. Another point deduction is, and this is a problem Nolan has had after Tenet, I'd say Tenet, a little bit in his Dark Knight trilogy too. Nolan is okay at shooting action. I've heard people say he sucks, whatever else. Fuck you, watch Inception. That hallway scene is amazing. The issue with Nolan's action shooting and why it's a problem specifically here in the Odyssey is there's a couple of action scenes, a couple of war scenes that don't flow as well because of his use of the camera and the way he frames certain shots in the movie. There's especially the ending battle, and that's going to be in my spoilers, where I can really nitpick certain things. There's a couple of times where it's jarring because he uses a lot of quick cuts and a lot of shaky cam, which I fucking can't stand. And he zooms in too tight on certain moves that's being done. So there's a disarming thing that's done in the latter half of the movie. And I could see the action being done. So the actors are actually performing the stunt. My issue is it cuts away before you see the good stuff. Also, too, the R rating. Look, there's one F-bomb in here, and that's it. There's two really horrifying and scary scenes, and some gnarly gore. But for the most part, this to me is a very soft R. And so I kind of feel like if he was going to be thrown the R-rated label, he should have just fucking committed to it, man. He should have went hog wild, because it gave me shades of the 97 miniseries where it could have been made for TV. And as a matter of fact, you probably could have got away with a lot more violence on TV these days than what the movie presents. So it baffles my mind that this is an R-rated movie, because honestly, you could bring, I mean, the only thing that's R-rated is it might be scary. But beyond that, this is very, like, I went into this R-rated movie, and this might be a little shallow and pedantic, but I went into this R-rated movie wanting to see some Hathaway, okay? Hathaway has done some scenes. I've seen all of her movies. And we get no nudity from Hathaway. Little disappointed. Little let down, Nolan. No, and especially because they get this really intimate moment, right? And you're looking and you're bracing, and you're like, oh, Odysseus is gonna get himself some fucking Matt Damon, right? And then they fucking hard cut the scene. And I'm like, son of a bitch, this is an R-rated movie. What are we doing? I mean, it's kind of disappointing. But alas, I'm just going to have to watch a Simple Plan or something like that. Anyways, that isn't the point. The point being is that I don't feel the rated R was, and I don't know how the MPA rates this shit, but it's just ridiculous now. It's just like, we're the only country that's doing this nonsensical bullshit where we just have all of these restrictions that make no sense. So I don't really feel like this particularly earns that R rating. Like, we could split hairs about what we consider violent or what's not violent and things like that. But honestly, I don't think it's an R to me. I more put it strong PG-13, if that. Yeah. PB says, I want to hear acting. Definitely should have listened to the Odyssey on the radio. 250 million so far as it used to. Yeah. So that being said, the cinematography in this is beautiful and all that. So my negatives, I'm done with. Elliot Page was a weird casting. The scene is weird. It is awkward. It's the one awkward thing, especially because that character, Seno, has a very important through line throughout the whole movie and is very relevant to what happens. So odd casting, still a great performance. I'm not going to say Elliot Page didn't act their ass off, because they did. And also, I think one of the other miscasts here, and I hate to say this, if you guys been on the channel, you know one of my favorite movies is Pearl. Mia Goth is a fucking amazing talent. And Mia Goth in this movie is criminally underused. And I talked about this with Bitchy because she is also a huge fan of Pearl and X. And we did like Maxine. But in this movie, a lot of these big name stars, which brings me back to casting people just for the sake of casting them, or as PB said, if the Oscar box is that not everybody is going to have a substantial role, which means a lot of these great actors who could give great performances are very shortchanged. I mean, for the shit that they gave Lupita, she's in the movie, and I'm not lying, time it yourself, fucking 2 minutes. Elliot Page is in the movie 5 minutes. This is a 3 hour and 55-minute movie. The internet going nuts for when you go to see this movie and not fucking judge it off of a poster or a clip you saw taken out of context. It's actually kind of crazy, some of the actors that get shortchanged in this movie. You have John Berthel, you have Anne Hathaway, John Leguizamo, you have Matt Damon, you have Elliot Page. Let me see. I'm trying to think. Dave Patel. I mean, the fucking list goes on. There's even actors I've seen in here who are big actors in like televisions, or that dude who was in The Collector who plays Arkin the Thief. He's in this fucking movie as a fucking background guy rowing the boat. Like, I mean, this cast is stacked. But my question is, why? Because 90% of the actors that you'll see as kind of like Easter eggs, it's almost like a Marvel Easter egg hunt for famous actors. Travis Barker is in this movie too. Everyone lost their shit. Actually, he makes sense. He's a musician and he plays a poet in this who is telling the story of Odysseus. And guess what? For like a minute, they show him at the beginning and at the fucking end. So, I mean, it's kind of like, and I'm getting passionate here because it blows my mind. I feel like if you scaled down the big names and focused on the characters that the story is about, I mean, you have God, I'm trying to think of all the people, and I saw this movie this morning. You have Charlize Theron. Hold on. Let me see. Hamis Patel. Benny Safdie. I mean, it just, I can't even list them all. Like, it'll be a fun for you guys to sit there and try to pick out all the actors that are in this. So, yes. And they like, and here's the thing. That's my negatives. Like, I had a problem with casting so many big known people. I think we could have scaled it back a bit. I had an issue with the sound, and I had an issue with some of the battle scenes. Beyond that, let's talk about the numerous things this thing does good. And there's a lot. So strap the fuck in, because I'm here to tell you, holy fucking shit. I've been living in the past couple of years in a CGI fucking nightmare, where Moana was one of the biggest fucking abominations to man, and it's going to be in my top 10 worst movies of this year. Spoiler, probably somewhere at 10, but it's just a lifeless, soulless, fucking dead, empty shell of a fucking movie. And then you watch this movie, and folks, I can't describe to you how good it feels to see practical effects on screen. Now, I know a big controversy, and I'm going to put it to bed right here. The Cyclops is not CGI, and you can tell looking at it. They built an animatronic. They had somebody in face paint and like in a bodysuit, and they used shooting techniques to make them look taller. And you can fucking see it on screen. The Cyclops in this movie is so goddamn terrifying. I can't put into words. Like, there were people in my theater who were moving around in their seat. And when its voice and its growl happens, and it's one of it, for a second, this movie goes full horror movie, and you're sitting in there fucking anxious as shit. And the way this is shot is so, it just like puts you in those shoes of those guys, and you are in the theater thinking these dudes are fucked. And not only that, but just the landscapes. In this modern era, we've seen films where they claim to be shot on location and all this stuff, or CGI green screen. And Nolan proves there's such a difference in shooting something practical and on location versus shooting something on a fucking green screen with CGI generated garbage. And that's not to say there is a CGI thing in this movie, and it's very noticeable because everything else is practical. And when I get into my spoilers, that'll be one of my negatives. I'm not going to spoil it right now, but there's one scene in particular that I just don't think you could do practically, and it shows that they had to lean on CGI. And why that sticks out is because everything else in this movie, I mean, people complained about the fucking armor, but one thing I love when I'm watching a movie, everybody in this film is dirty as shit. I mean, when you believe these dudes have been to war for years, like when you get to Odysseus' journey, you believe these men have been fucking lost for years because they look so grimy and grungy and fucking dingy and no one's fucking clean. And it's just, it's nasty and it just makes you feel it. It's got this feeling like I'm there in the boat with them. And, you know, when the sea is splashing on people, they're fucking wet and they're drenched in water. And I really want to get the behind the scenes to see like what they did to bring this all to life, because it is quite amazing. And that was never going to be a question of whether or not Nolan can shoot something practical and make it look good. I know there's a thing with the boats. Look, I like history. I know a lot about history. The boats are fine. Like, yes, if we're going to be fucking nitpicky, they're not exactly like the boats that were made, but it's good enough. I believe they are on ancient fucking ships, and that's all I really need. But like I said, the biggest problem with this is some of the modern dialogue contrasted with them doing some of the ancient look does kind of offset it slightly because it does knock you out. That being said, another great actor I should talk about on this that I didn't bring up is John Leguizamo. John Leguizamo, I have come to love more and more as the years go on, as he gets older and takes these roles. John Leguizamo is the heart of this movie. And I'm not going to spoil it here because this is non-spoilers. I'll go into spoilers and tell you the scenes later. But he gives a performance here that is so fucking good. And even with his characters talking about aesthetics again, there's a scene where he has to look dingy and dirty or whatever. And I believe that what happened to him happened. It's Nolan does a great job in making everything feel real. There's especially a couple of shots in this movie of things that happen. I'm trying to be vague here, where you really feel the battle and things that are going on, and it looks so good. This movie looks amazing. Like, full stop. Anybody, even if you hate the movie for whatever biased reasons, I think we can all agree it's a great looking film. And the story I want to highlight here. The story hit me in a way I haven't felt in before. And I think this is where it comes to people jumping to conclusions before they see the movie. There's a message in this movie, and it's one of the most neutral but heartfelt messages, and I'll get into it in my spoilers, that I feel really brings, it's the glue of the movie that brings everything together when you see this. Now, another thing I want to talk about is the narrative before I go into my spoilers. The narrative is told as it was told in the original work. So as you're watching this movie, and one thing that I might think will be jarring for audiences is the story is told non-linear. So you're essentially hearing it from certain points that have already passed, and then you're going back and seeing the events as they unfold. You don't even see, honestly, the Trojan War till almost near the ending, and it's very purposefully done that way. You do see glimpses of it, but it's shot a lot perspectively. And now some of this works, and some of it's a little confusing. There's certain perspectives from other characters that diverge, and it's more towards the third act of the movie, which almost kind of threw me off. And one scene in particular, which I'll get into my spoilers so I could do a proper critique. But needless to say, there's certain scenes that are kind of hard to follow. And I think when I watch it a second time, because I will be going to see this movie again in the theaters, I think I'll be able to connect it better. But as you're first watching the film, it's non-linear storytelling is kind of jarring. So you're jumping from this perspective, and then you go back to a modern perspective, and then you're following the son Theseus, and then you jump back to Odysseus, who is not even anywhere near there, and then he's flashing back to the war and other battles and things that got him to the point he's at right now. And I think for the most part it works, but when you're going in and you're expecting a straight story, it doesn't come off that way. And I've heard people complain about this, but Nolan is actually adapting how it's adapted in the work. If you read the Odyssey, it is not told linear. It's poems, and they're told out of order by almost like a narration from Odysseus or from this person or from this guy's perspective. So he's actually honoring the original work in the way he structured the story. That being said, I think it kind of is going to make it hard for people to follow the movie until you get to the ending. I think if you rewatch the film and you know what you're going into, it makes it a lot easier to follow it. But Nolan is a big fan of this. He did it in Tenet. He did it in Inception. I think Interstellar plays a lot with time and the flow of space and things like that. Nolan is very much one of those directors who likes playing around and manipulating time. And he's not like Quentin Tarantino with full-on telling stories out of order. He's more of messing with the concept of time in his films. And so the Odyssey very much lends to those kinds of things that he does. And I think that it would have been better to just tell it straightforward as opposed to telling it non-linear. However, the problem with that is that Odysseus' story is one of the last ones. So you can't link the Trojan War to Odysseus' journey in a coherent manner, because Odysseus is a very small part in a bigger war. So I understand the reason for telling the story the way that he did. I'm not 100% whether or not it works. I'll have to see it again to really see where I land. Like I said, I saw this today and I kind of was sitting on it for a bit before I did this review. So I may find that a positive. I may find that a negative. I'm kind of in the middle right now. So that being said, the story is great, though. The theme of the Odyssey and what it's trying to say to us, I think, is something that resonates with people. I was sitting in the theater today, and I'm not the kind of person who tears up at movies. I haven't in the past. The last two movies I teared up for was Infinity War and Endgame. And you guys all know, if you did not fucking shed a tear for I Know I Love You 5,000 or 3,000 or whatever the fuck that little girl says, then you have no heart. Anyways, I haven't teared up since those movies, but this movie made me go through an emotional roller coaster. There's something they do with a dog, and I will explain this in my spoilers, but if you know, you know. And this dog is very crucial to a certain plot point. And there's something that happens where I lost my shit and I was like a baby. And there's also a scene with Anne Hathaway and with Matt Damon that also got me in the feels. And so, but the other thing that kind of got me emotionally was the story at the end of the day still gives you hope. And I'm fucking so glad to see movies that aren't these like blockbusters that are everything's doom and gloom and stuff like that, and directors trying to bring about like how our society's falling apart and all this bullshit. This movie actually has a very optimistic, hopeful feel to it, where you leave the theater with a sense of hope and of fucking faith in humanity. Like this movie, as Jane pointed out earlier in a comment, this movie is a study on man and their greed and the atrocities we do during war and the justifications for the things that we do. And there's a very strong theme of what it means to be human, what it is to go to war, what it is to like the stories that are perpetuated, and how society has these things that hold it together. And when you lose those things, you cause a breakdown. And I'll get to that, because I really think it's something I really just want to talk about, how clever that Nolan put this in this movie, and I think it fits the story fucking perfect, and I think it gives it I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm going to do a John Campea, but I think that it gives an emotional weight that you would not have otherwise without some of the things that he brings up in this film. And it makes you reflect. And also, too, this is a love story. And you feel this man's drive to get back to the people he loves. And Anne Hathaway grounds the story in this kind of mythic, epic love of this woman who loves her husband more than anything else in this world. And it's almost like their love and their feelings not only keep him safe, but motivate him and give him the drive he needs to get back to his people, to right the wrongs, to get these fucking assholes out of his kingdom and to come back home. And there's a specific reason why he doesn't. That is not only explained by the gods, but there's also a more humane reason, another drive. One other person I wanted to mention, Zendaya. A big thing about her. There's a specific reason why Zendaya is chose as what the fuck was it? She's one of the gods. Athena. There we go. So people had a big issue with this. Athena is Zendaya for a specific reason within the movie. And I thought it was fucking brilliant. And half of a spoiler alert, she is Athena, but Zendaya and what she represents is not exactly the gods. See, it's set up in the movie that the gods appear to man, but as someone that they've seen or someone they're close to or something tragic they've done. And so Zendaya specifically was chosen as a specific thing that's done in Troy. And there's a reason why Matt Damon sees Zendaya as Athena. And I'm not going to explain why until I get into my spoilers, but it's very clever. And I think it, oh God, I hate to use this, but I think it subverts what people's thought of it was. Athena is Athena, right? Zeus is Zeus, but the gods are used as a metaphysical and a metaphor for a lot of other things, or portrayed in a sort of natural way, like Poseidon, when the seas are fucking up their boat and beating them down. That's Poseidon angry. When there's thunder and there's lightning and there's this storm that brews in particular moments, that's Zeus. It's meant to kind of leave it up to the interpretation of the audience of whether or not these are gods or whether this shit just happens to be happening as this is going down. Now, you could take it as Zeus came down and was helping out, or Athena is there guiding them. It's very much like the poem. And I felt like, and I think this is how you choose to interpret the literature, I felt like a lot of what's in the Odyssey is in fact Nolan's type of style, where you could say, is this the gods, or is this a manifestation, or is this something attributed to gods? Like, and I'm sure the philosophical debate are for better and more intelligent people than myself, but it's a lot of philosophical sort of meanings to things. Now, there are things that appear that are definitely the things they're supposed to be, but the gods themselves and how they choose to appear are more of not actively shown, except for one, which is played by Charlize Theron, and that's Calypso. But beyond that, you don't really know if the gods are real or if they're really appearing to these people or what their game is. You just kind of know they're in the background and they're doing their own shit and being lecherous and fucking and their uncles and things like that. Dude, Greek mythology is fucked up. So there's some fucked up shit if you look into Greek mythology. Like, Zeus was a dickhead. Like, half the gods are assholes. Anyways, that point being, like, the Greek gods are wild. And so I think Nolan taking this approach works for the movie because it does let the audience, like, we see these supernatural things exist in the world, but we're more left to interpret whether or not the things that created them are out there. And that's also the point of the movie. Like, magic and what is it to us? Like, is it real? Is there tangible things? And in some ways, yes. But, that's kind of the point of the movie, the death of magic, is almost the death of creativity, right? And of man's abilities to see things greater than himself. And that's another big, strong theme in this movie. So fucking excellent use of gods and of using them as a metaphor, I think is the best way without making it too fantastical, because I think out of all of Nolan's films, this is the most fantastical film he's ever done. And I think his approach really does work, especially for what he's going for in this film. So, all in all, I thought this was a fantastically done movie. And the 56 minutes of non-spoilers and me dancing around shit is my way of saying I'm going to give this movie a 9 out of 10. I think this movie is fucking fantastic. I think only one other movie might beat this for me, and that'll be Doom. But I, in good faith, can't give this movie anything lower than that, considering that I actually felt things coming out of the theater. Like, I felt joy and I felt sorrow and I teared up, and there was people behind me and to the side of me crying and laughing and clapping, and that's what a good blockbuster should be. This movie is fucking excellent, and I think everybody should go out and see it and support it. And if you're one of those people who are crazy and then then you weren't gonna fucking see this movie anyways, and you were gonna prejudge it. So that's my take on it. I give it a 9 out of 10. No, fuck Doomsday. I'm not gonna put it in the great category with the fucking Odyssey. These are two vastly different, not even in the same universe. Anyways, so let's get to some of the things that that now I'm going to put my banner up because I have talked on spoilers long enough. I want to break this shit down and tell you specifics about what works, what doesn't work, all that good jazz, because I know people are going to be interested. And so let's begin with some of my things that didn't work or particular scenes, and then I'll jump into scenes that work absolutely well. Oh, Doomsday is going to make money. I'm not going to put it next to movies of great acting like this. But anyways, so first and foremost, as far as ruining dialogue, the scene in particular that really almost took me out of the movie was the Tom Holland scene. Now, it was clipped very poorly. So you just get the daddy, and in full context of the scene, it works. My issues, once again, is that I think it was kind of foolish going with modern English for the simple fact of you don't have to make it in Greek. You don't have to do a Robert Eggers. I love his movies, but that man like commits. Like if he's shooting something about the 19th century England, he's going to do fucking the lost English dialect from 1910, and he's going to fucking shoot it in wherever. Like, Eggers is a madman. Like the Northman, he had people speaking in the fucking dialect, and good for them. And I get what Nolan is going for here. He wants to make it accessible. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I love Nosferatu by Robert Eggers. Great fucking movie. Big issue, I don't like having a dictionary to fucking understand what's going on. And that movie went way too far with the stuff. Now, Nolan's on the other end. I also don't want to feel like if I'm supposed to be in Troy or I'm supposed to be in Greece, like if I'm supposed to be in these like different foreign islands, I would like a little bit of immersion. And unfortunately, when you use modern dialect, it does break you from the immersion. And it is one of my hugest complaints, probably why I'm at a 9 besides, because the choreograph and things like that, I can kind of forgive. But the the dialect and the way it's structured is really distracting and does pull you out of the movie in a couple of scenes where I'm like, the first 20 minutes of this film, when they're setting things up, it's very noticeable because I don't have that moving action. I'm not following things. So people talking in a modern tongue does pull you the fuck way out of the movie. With that being said, I also took a look. That's why this is a 9, because once you get into the movie, it's less noticeable because shit is happening. And I gotta say, the pacing of this movie is 3 hours and 55 minutes. Probably longer with previews and commercials. I did not feel a fucking second of it. Once you get past the first 20 minutes of this movie, it's just goes and does not stop. We're going from here, we're going from there, we're talking to this person, we're talking to that person. It's just nonstop, full steam ahead. And I really do enjoy that. Now, I wanted to talk about my favorite scenes now, because I've already said my negatives in the beginning of this review right off the bat, so I can hardcore glaze some of the really, really great stuff that's done here. John Leguizamo. I said I was going to save it for this part. This man gives a performance like, honestly, I would say this is his best performance I've seen him give yet. He plays a blind servant of Odysseus, who's actually very prevalent in the story. He plays Amunis. He was the servant of Odysseus. He's a caretaker, and there is this thread. So I was telling you that there were plot points that really hit me in the feels. So in this, there's a story explained about Odysseus when his son is going to find out the legend of his father and things like that. And there's a story with this dog. And I fucking knew what they were doing. But fucking Nolan, he ain't like other directors, because I did not know this was going to be like a huge, smart, awesome little plot device that he uses with this dog. So John Leguizamo tells the story of Odysseus and how kind of a leader he is. And he says he's picking out these puppies. And the puppies that he doesn't like, he fucking flings off of a cliff. No bullshit. Now, I don't think he kills them. So calm down. There's no animal cruelty. But it's kind of like dismissing them, okay? So you get puppies, like, you go over here because Odysseus is looking for a hunting dog. And there's this scrawny little shit dog that he sees. And he picks it up. And John Leguizamo is about to like chuck it to the side, and Odysseus, or bad Damon, he's like, no, that's my dog. And John Leguizamo, this has actually got people laughing in my theater, and he's like, dude, that dog is horrible. Like, what are you going to use that dog for? And he goes, this dog's a hunter. So they cut and they show him hunting, and he's hunting this boar. And Odysseus, if you know the tales, is very good with a bow. And he shoots the boar between the eyes, but the boar doesn't go down. And he charges him, and it's actually how he gets his scar. And this fucking dog grabs the boar by its neck and fucking tears the boar's throat out and saves Odysseus. And the dog, which is the main plot device and where it gets clever, is the dog lives past what the dog should live past. Its life cycle, as if it's waiting for its master to come home. And I'm getting teared up just talking about this for people who are animal lovers. But there's this scene where that piece of shit played by Robert Pattinson, he saves the dog, but he's still a slimy little wormy piece of fucking trash. And he takes the dog and he throws it literally on a pile of shit. And he's like, the dog can just stay out here with its master. So, like, you know, it's obviously framed to get emotions from the audience. I know this, but in a brilliant scene near the end of the film, Odysseus comes back and he sees his dog. And keep in mind, the gods tell him he shouldn't reveal himself. So he's pretending to be a beggar. And this dog is on this pile of shit. And now he has met with Tom Holland, and Tom Holland does not yet know Odysseus is his father. He's claiming to be a warrior who served with Odysseus. And John Leguizamo was telling the story of this dog, and that the dog listened to no one, and it knew its master right away, and that the dog refuses to die until Odysseus comes home. And so Odysseus is getting ready to meet the queen or whatever, and he sees his dog in this pile of shit. And he goes to pet the dog, and I'm telling you right now, folks, I fucking lost my shit at this moment, because just the way, and once again, Nolan shooting stuff, he kind of pans down and he shows the dog's tail wagging. And Odysseus is like, what have they done to you? Blah, blah, blah. He goes, good boy, good boy. And the dog dies as he's petting it, as if it just waited for him to come home. And once it knew its master was home, it passed on. And at that moment, which is so fucking good, like, this is just good writing, because that signaled to Tom Holland that was his father, because he had heard the story previously in like the first act about the dog. And look, I just want to say something right now. I am not a fan of Tom Holland. I know, come at me. Fucking Spider-Man, he's not my Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire's my Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield's more my Spider-Man. I've never been a big Tom Holland fan, but I gotta give him his flowers. Tom Holland acts his ass off. His delivery and this scene would not work without Tom Holland's back and forth. And it's this moment where he wants to cry and hug his father because he hasn't seen him in years and acknowledge who he is, but he can't. He can't let anybody know this is Odysseus coming back to fuck these people up. And so he looks at him and he goes, that was my dad's dog. Like, he only let my father pet him. And he goes, your father's dead. And without saying anything, it's like they understood each other. And once again, this is acting, like fucking acting. God, I've missed it. In their eyes, they say everything they need to say. And I want to highlight, and I said some of it, this is a problem, but this is where quick shots work. This scene is like maybe 2-3 minutes, but they say everything that needs to be said to each other in the looks that they give. And he realizes it's his father. And instead of giving it away or fucking up the plan, he looks at him and he goes, well, welcome back home, stranger. And I don't know why it hit me so hard. Maybe because I'm a father. Maybe it's because you realize you have these bonds with your kids, but it fucking got me, man. It got me. And like, I saw people in my theater. I was like, looked up, and there was like an older couple of younger all the ladies in the theater were fucking bawling. And I had this dude, he was like this, like big dude sitting across from me. And I saw him go like this. And like, we didn't look at each other. We just nodded. We acknowledged, even as a man. There's just fucking scenes in movies that when they're executed well, and this is really a strength with Christopher Nolan, as far as like maybe the structure of the dialogue is not exactly written well, but the scenes and the way he brings performances out of people, it's small moments like this where you watch the movie, and this comes, and this is one great thing about Nolan. He always lets you leave the theater feeling good, because this is like the climax, but he used this in the beginning of his movie. Like, nothing that's put into this film is senseless. It all comes back later on in a very impactful way. And that's just one part of a 3-hour and 5 or 55-minute movie, where that scene was like in the fucking beginning. We're talking act 1, like the first 20 minutes is the story about this dog. And I kept it in the back of my mind because it seemed like it was going to come up again. And there's a flashback where the fucking dog is brought up again. I was like, okay, they're using this obviously for a reason. But when you get to that moment at the end and the payoff for why he's showing you this scene, it shows just, it reaffirms the themes in this movie of loyalty, of friendship, of this power that Odysseus had, that he lost his way. But there's a reason why people are willing to die for him, why people are willing to sacrifice their lives and go to war for him. And ultimately, Odysseus does some fucking heinous shit in this movie. But at the end of the day, he is still a good person. Like, despite what he did in war, how he chose to rule and how he chose to treat people, which is the whole basis of like the third act, is the highlight of this film. And it's the sense of not only just his, but it's also kind of highlighting how man is. So that was the first scene. Another great scene that I had to point out is Anne Hathaway, of course, and Matt Damon. Now, I told you guys earlier in the review, there was a scene that really showed that Anne should win an award. And I have to tell you, so the spoilers, you already see it, but this is the end of the film. And before I get into the big moment, I want to just get into the afterwards fallout of the big moment. The scene where Anne Hathaway and Matt Damon, Odysseus and Penelope finally end up together had me bawling like a fucking baby, man. Their acting was on a fucking another level, like some next level shit, man. Matt Damon in this movie, and this is the thing, we all know Matt Damon can be a dramatic actor. Good Will Hunting, Interstellar, The Martian, whatever. Fucking throw a rock. Matt Damon could do it. But he does not get to showcase it much in this movie. However, the scene of him getting to his wife and the dialogue exchange between the two of them and made me want to go home and hug the wife, because it's one of those scenes that you just feel the commitment. You feel, and I don't give a fuck. At this point, I was locked the fuck in. I was locked in. The dialogue's not bothering me at this point. But even the way they're delivering their lines, and just there's two big conversations in this that really, they just fucking give it like 120%. The conversation of when Odysseus comes back before he reveals himself, and he talks to her, and he realizes he has to convince her that he's important without giving away who he is. And the dialogue between the two of them, and he explains why he hasn't been back. And so in this movie, you are led to believe that he has pissed off Poseidon. He did. But the interesting point of the film is that he can't make it home, not because he pissed off the gods, but because he felt he broke the rules that he enforced in his kingdom. He did horrendous shit, and he doesn't feel worthy of returning home. He feels like just let his wife move on, and he is dealing with all of the horrendous shit that he's had to endure. And then with losing his men constantly and things like that, by the time he gets to the island with Calypso in it, and Charlize Theron fucking knocks it out of the park. But if you guys know the myth, you know she gives him the lotus and he forgets. Now, it starts off, she feeds him the lotus to forget the pain, and she's trying to build his body back up, but she falls in love with him. And so then it becomes a more of, she knows she has to let him off the island. And there's a little clever thing that they do in the background with, like, you can hear thunder and lightning and Zeus. And it's kind of like she's got this worried look on her face. And I think I appreciate it more than the 97 movie, because in the 97 movie, they show a lot more of the gods and they more interact than in this film. But I think it's kind of clever that you can see by Charlize Theron's performance that clearly the gods have told her, like, you got to let this guy go. You can't fucking keep him here. He has a love. And there's this theme of a love that connects you no matter where you are. And if Anne Hathaway or Matt Damon weren't good, then this falls completely flat. But there's some moments where you feel there's this supernatural force that is drawing him back home. The love of his wife, the love that they have, is drawing him and pushing him past these impossible battles with these mythical creatures and these men that want to steal away what he's built. And there's something so deep and meaningful in the way that they portray that connection that just kind of hit me, and it really made you feel the journey more. So that Ed scene was just fucking phenomenal. Now, when I said the Cyclops was practical and looked good, now we're going to go to the negative that I would have had to spoil. But if you know the journey of the Odyssey, Odysseus is told in Hades he has two options. He can either cross Scylla or I forgot the other one. Not Scylla. What's the other one? Scylla or I think it's Scylla or I always forget. Charybdis. So Scylla is this big fucking weird creature thing that eats people. Charybdis is a whirlpool that sucks these ships in and they go into the void. Now, yes, I do agree with that. Yeah, that is true. Second wife. Anyways. Yeah, I do agree. So here's where the CGI comes in and why it's so noticeable. Scylla in this movie, I think, was done better in 97. And I know that's a hot take. It's wild to say. But my issue is that in the Odyssey in 97, they used puppetry to bring Scylla to life. And it doesn't look the best, but it still holds up decently today. Now, it's not to say the creature doesn't look good whilst you're watching the movie, but there's still a little bit of an uncanny feel to the monster as they're going through this this little pass. And also too, I think the 97 movie got the den that they have to go into, because it's essentially, here they say it's like a little pathway. I don't know if it's accurate to the story or not, but in the 97 version, it was more of a cave that they went into, and I liked that better. It was a creature in the dark, and people are being killed as they're going through this cave by this, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like got teeth. It's almost like a Venus flytrap, and I thought that was a better design. That's just personal preference. But that was the other wonky CGI that I thought was really noticeable. There's a couple of shots with the soldiers and the way that they're filmed where you can kind of see a glitch in the Matrix. But like I said, other than that, I'm fucking nitpicking. So that was cool. So let's talk about what I thought was amazing and why I think a lot of people are going to leave with a good feeling. So if you guys know the epic tale of the Odyssey, the suitors, as they're called, and Robert Pattinson plays the lead douchebag in that. The suitors are trying to force Anne Hathaway's character Penelope into marrying one of them. And Robert Pattinson plays the ringleader, Antius, who is a slimy, manipulative piece of shit who basically tricked somebody or threatened somebody's family to get them to go to war for him. And Robert Pattinson plays such a great job, but I've got to say the payoff for this journey is built up really well. And the thing with this scene, I think it's very mixed for me because of the way Nolan shoots action. And I told you in the beginning, I would get to my problems with the action. And this is the biggest symptom of that. I like the 97 version better. And I hate to say that, but it's because in the 97 version, it felt more gritty. The camera was very straight and very focused on people dying, people in the original 97 one, he takes 2 spears and pins people into the door. And you can see it all very clearly. Like, keep in mind, this is the culmination of Odysseus' journey. And you are wanting these fuckers to be killed, especially Pattinson. Like, I'm telling you, he is hamming it up and it works. And by the end of this, you want somebody to beat the shit out of Robert Pattinson's character because he is a piece of shit. And so you want that cathartic feeling of watching, like, this is rated R. Like, I mean, maybe it's just me, and it's not to say that some of the kills aren't gory, but I wanted to see people's heads get chopped off. I mean, to drop spears, I thought he was going to pin people against the wall with the spear, and he doesn't really do that. And so for me, coming from a movie that I've loved since I was a kid, and it might be a little bit dated, it might be a guilty pleasure, I personally think it was ahead of its time. I really wanted more of a visceral, like, just gnarly fucking death scene for these motherfuckers, because they kicked my man's dog. All right. They beat the shit out of John Leguizamo's character. Right. And you're attached to these people. So I did get that cathartic feeling of people getting what they deserved. But for an R rating, I was kind of hoping they went a little bit further. And I don't think they push it far enough. Like, all the beats are there, but it's just missing that oomph. And I do think it's a problem with Christopher Nolan's way that he shoots action. It's just not as impactful as it should be. And it's kind of a problem that's in the Battle of Troy that they show near the end of the movie and stuff like that. Like, the sound is there. The feel of the battle is there. And hell, some of the scenes are brutal. But I think if you got somebody to shoot the action just a tad bit better, like an actual fight choreograph, like in John Wick or something like that, like somebody who specializes in framing the action and things like that, it would have been better. It does kind of take away from this big emotional payoff that we're supposed to have at the end of the movie. And it's a tiny nitpick. It still looks cool. There's still a lot of moments that Matt Damon pulls a fucking Jason Bourne and just fucks people up. There's actually a really cool scene where he takes his bow and he puts it around this guy's throat and like fucking suplex him, and he like falls on his neck, and then he wraps this other dude around and shoots one guy and then takes a sword and does this to someone else. Like, there's some cool shit. But once again, and this is a tiny nitpick, I just think the action needs to be shot by somebody else or choreographed by somebody else. I never thought Nolan's action was shot very well, except for Tenet and Inception. Those were rare exceptions. And The Dark Knight, not so much Rises, not so much Begins. The action's okay, it's serviceable, but the main scenes are from The Dark Knight, and I would even say Dark Knight Rises has some pretty cool action. But Nolan's not really a big like action guy, and I think if you're telling an epic story, you should have like a stunt coordinating guy or whoever. Like, look, I write stories, I don't shoot films, so I don't know who the fuck is in charge of it, but he needs to get a guy. And the sound mixing. I said I was going to say some problem. There's a scene in the movie, and I don't know if it's going to be the same for everyone, but it's towards the end and it's near the fall of Troy. It is so fucking loud, and it's clearly an era in the movie. And for a slight second, it did take me out. And I was in a theater with terrible, like, they don't have the IMAX sound. So it's not even like, it's just the way the sound is mixed. Like, clearly it's just slightly off. And that too was jarring. So, you know, that's my spoiler negative. The Troy fight is super loud and it's very distracting. And there is a scene with the Cyclops where the Cyclops is talking, but they make his growl so loud that it's almost inaudible. He says Poseidon, but it just sounds like he goes, because the fucking audio is so fucking loud. I could not make out what, and I think it would have been a moment to maybe like fucking scale it down so we can know, because the whole deal is that the Cyclops can talk. So they should have just talked to it as opposed to like trying to, fucking stab it. My other big issue is there's some things that are cut out, and I want to refer to the 97 movie. There's a great line, and it's straight from the Odyssey, and I wish that they kept it in the movie, and I understand why they cut it, but it really always hit hard for me. There's a moment in the 97 Odyssey where Odysseus is defying the gods, and after he's told to surrender to them, he yells to the sea, and he yells to Poseidon, and he's like, "What do you want from me? Blah, 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 I'll give it whatever." And Poseidon goes, "The lesson you need to learn is that no man is above the gods. No man is greater than any other one man." And I get it, because in 97, it's different themes that they were going for with this movie. It's a 2-part movie made for television, but it hit harder for me. Whereas in this, that's not really the theme they're going for. In this movie, they're going for a theme of what the gods mean as far as people. So I've buried the lead long enough, and I'm going to get into the main theme. Or correct me if I'm wrong, if you get a different thing out of this, but the gist of it. So in the movie, a lot of times they say the law of Zeus. And we're really not sure if this is the actual law of Zeus or if this is what people perceive as the law of Zeus. Because, like I said, the gods are very abstract in this version of the Odyssey. The only god who appears is Athena and Calypso. Other than that, they're very vague. Like, they're there, Poseidon gets pissed. There's a moment. Like, Zeus is there. There's thunderstorms and things like that. But it's very much left for your own interpretation. But the theme they're going for, and it's a powerful imagery that I don't know why it just hit for me. And it's the main reason this is a 9. There is a visual with the Trojan horse. And the thought behind it is Odysseus can't get home because he broke Zeus's law, which is that when you go to war, when you're fighting, no matter what you're doing in life, you do it with honor. And Odysseus has always made this a thing in his house and lived his life, even if he doesn't believe in the gods, which Odysseus does not believe in the gods. His wife serves them or whatever, but he's very cavalier. He says numerous points in this movie that I know my lighting's abstract. I'm trying to be deep. Leave me alone. A huge theme in this movie is that son of a bitch. All right, let there be light. And there was. Oh my God, that is terrible. Let's just turn that down a bit. All right. Dear God. Oh, Lord. I really do not like that. That glare is horrible. Yeah, so a huge theme or message of this is that gosh, maybe I should do more of this. There we go. Ugh. There we go. Okay, so huge theme in this movie is that the gods are an abstract concept. So there's the scene with Troy, and the one scene with Troy is that there's a visual, and it's supposed to represent the downfall of man's ideals. So there's a theme that Nolan plays around with in this film where man is getting past the gods and these ancient customs, and what does that mean for the future? And there's a great line where he and Penelope are talking, and he says that the age of the Bronze Age, the age of myths and gods is coming to an end. And she goes to him, yes, but out of the ashes, a new civilization will rise, people will start again, and things will go back to how they were eventually. And I think there's something powerful that when you leave the theater, you feel a sense of hope because it's so well delivered. And the sort of last image is they show the Trojan horse on fire. And I don't know why, but for me, it was a very powerful image. And so when they're talking about this Zeus's law, which is a huge role, you're going to hear this fucking quoted tons of times. It's not so much the law of Zeus, but it is a study of people need guidelines. And if you want to be super political about it, I would say this, if we're taking a message, it's actually more conservative of that people need structure. And without structures, right or wrong, or having these kinds of authorities or guidance, that the world would fall into chaos. There's also, and a bit of a spoiler, a thing that's so clever that's brought up several times. So there's this rumor as you get into the time jump when they're going forward, and that it's about these sea people, and these sea people broke the rule of Zeus, and they're pillaging and plundering and fucking goats and killing your wife, that kind of thing, right? As rumors start. And what makes this so impactful is that Odysseus hears this rumor while he's still trying to get home. And he's talking to Penelope in the second best scene of the movie I was telling you guys about, which if Anne Hathaway and Matt Damon have got fucking nominated for their fucking performance, fuck the Oscars. They're a bunch of fucking snakes. Anyways, that isn't the point. They're having this conversation, and she's talking about having to raise this army for the sea people. And finally, Matt Damon drops this bomb, right? So they don't show the Battle of Troy till the end of the movie. I know it's weird. Just roll with it. You'll get glimpses of it, but there's a specific reason why they don't. And there's a specific reason why Zendaya was cast, which I hinted to in the beginning of my review, but I didn't want to spoil it. Now I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. Hold on to your butts. It makes fucking sense. So during the Battle of Troy, Odysseus recounts it as a soldier who's telling his wife what happened. And so they're sitting down and they're having this talk, and there's a screen, and he's sitting down, and he goes, the way that I got into Troy was by defying the only rule that man should live by, and it's Zeus's law. The Trojan horse, and this is even like historically, this has been debated. Like I've had college debates about this, right? The ethics behind this. But Odysseus in the movie acknowledges this, which I think is kind of fucking cool. But he says, we faked surrender, right? When you surrender, you're giving up. That's supposed to mean like, hey, I gave in my flags, we fucking surrender, whatever else. But instead of surrendering, and this is where I say they show some of Odysseus's intelligence, but they don't really dig into it. He set up a horse, which was protected by Poseidon, which was why Poseidon's pissed, because all of the gods helped, because they felt, Troy had to fall, whatever. And so, oh, by the way, the Trojan horse scene is fucking brutal. But anyways, like them in the horse, because they show what it was like in the horse. Like people drown, they're in shit and piss. It's gnarly. But anyways, so he tells the story about how they actually took Troy, what the reality of it is, and not what the fucking poems are or what the songs are. And this is where I knew I was starting to get in my feels, because the acting is just off the charts. And Anne Hathaway and Matt Damon sell it, but he looks at her, he's like, we lied to get through the gates. we faked surrendering. And he goes, and we murdered everybody, even people. And the way he words it is, that night, their blood and rage, overtook their reason, or something to that effect. And this is where the movie actually probably earns its R rating. They fucking murder everybody. They kill men, they kill women. And so why is Odysseus seeing Zendaya as Athena? Because the gods appear to people as the last thing they remember, right? As a vision of their guilt or whatever else. Like whatever powerful thing is in their mind is how the gods present themselves. Zendaya's character was actually a priest that was in the village that was beheaded along with the effigy of Athena. So his visions of her is not actually Athena. It's a person that was murdered. Now, you could use this as Athena appeared to him as this person because it's the most thing he's conflicted about, or you could see it as he's fucking lost his mind. And but it kind of takes that question out because Athena does talk to him about what the gods are thinking. So I personally think it's Athena appearing to him, but just as his guilt, or the one thing he's so torn up about. And then the second bombshell comes. So all this time, you are assuming the gods are trying to keep him from his family. And essentially they are. He did piss off Poseidon when he stabbed the Cyclops in the eye. But there's a line where Penelope, Anne Hathaway, says, if my husband wanted to see me, the gods, man, nobody could stop him. The only one who could stop him was him. And basically, at this moment, he confesses that after he murdered these women and these children, and he watched this priest get beheaded in front of him, and all these people were raped and beaten. And don't get me wrong, they don't show this. Like I said, this could easily be a PG-13 movie. A lot of stuff is implied, but nothing's ever shown. But specifically, they show Zendaya's character nearly the whole beheading so that you know. This is the reason why he's seeing her as Athena, or as the effigy of Athena is appearing to him as this, because this is the source of his guilt. And he felt like this was like, when he talks about it, he says, we burned shops, we burned food, we ate more than we needed. And he goes, that night I saw humanity's the real face of humanity, the real face of war. And so there's this parallel of, yes, the gods held him back, but his guilt was also the reason why he stayed on Calypso's island. Like, it wasn't that, and once again, you have to see the movie, but the rough broad strokes is that Calypso knew internally he was having a struggle that was keeping him from wanting to remember where his home was, because part of him did not want to make it back. And after all of his men had died, getting to the island, he was just fucking done. And then eventually his love and the pull he has towards his wife, and just that feeling that he needed to go home. You know, eventually we all need to go home, no matter how bad, terrible the shit is that you do. No, there is baby murder. It's not shown, but it's implied. They don't go too crazy with it, but it is gnarly. You get the point. I'll put it to you that way. PB, you sick bastard. Anyways, but yeah, no, they get the point across. Like, and so that's the part where I was saying a lot of people took things out of context before actually seeing what the movie was trying to say, and that's why her character works. Now, why Helen works, and the other spoiler that I didn't want to get to till now, that the internet blew up, blah, blah, blah. How can they cast a black woman? Look, the storyline is super fucking clever. And Christopher Nolan's probably the greatest troll on earth. So Helen of Troy, if you know the story of the Iliad, is that the king Agamemnon, his brother's wife, was Helena of Troy, and I forget the particulars because I haven't seen that in a while, but basically dude came, stole his wife, started a fucking war. Now, who's right, who's wrong? I'll probably do a video on Troy and do that debate there. That isn't the point. But in this movie, what they do with Agamemnon's character and of Helena of Troy's character is brilliant. So Lupita Nyong'o plays actually two characters, Helena of Troy and her sister. And the point that the movie makes, and that is of that character, is the war's not about Helena of Troy. It never was. And that's the truth. The war is about that they wanted to trade routes. And Agamemnon used the theft of his brother's wife, or her running away because his brother's a piece of shit, actually expertly played by John Berthal. And so the war was never about Helena and battling for her honor. As a matter of fact, Agamemnon gets killed when he comes back by her because they show a flashback and he took their daughter and fucking threw her in the sea as a sacrifice. So I guess you're right. I mean, she wasn't a baby, PB, but close enough. So this dude is a piece of shit. And so when he gets back, and then this is explained with this brilliant trip into hell or Hades, where he sees Agamemnon and he explains what happened to him. And he's like, I thought you made it home with the crew. And he's like, I did. But he goes, and that's where he gets the idea to wear the disguise, because his wife waited till he got home. She oils his body and all that. And I think the guy who plays the mountain, the mountain, I couldn't really see, kind of looks like the actor, and he has more hair than in Game of Thrones, but I think it's him because he's a big motherfucker. But like, he goes and she's like, my king, blah, 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 oils him up and stabs him in the fucking throat. And then John Berthal, he's wild. So they don't kill Helen of Troy. They mark her face as a way, because she's supposed to be this most beautiful person everybody admires, and they like scar her face. And I was like, it's so brilliant, because it's like saying the point of the war was never about love, at least not for them. Whereas when you contrast that with Odysseus's journey, his whole fucking being is about getting home to his love. Whereas a whole war was started for love, but not really. And that's where I say there's some themes of man and war and what it means to be human and having laws to have order and stability. So jumping back to what I was saying, because you needed that context, when Odysseus talks to his wife at the end of the film, and they're having the conversation about, as the stranger, and he tells her about how he violated these laws. He was such a good man, as opposed to Agamemnon, that he punished himself on top of being punished because he felt like he didn't deserve to live in his land. And they actually changed the ending, and it works for this movie, where at the end of the Odyssey, which I never really liked from the original text, is that basically he gets away with killing all of these suitors, and the gods intervene and they live happily ever after. And I think that doesn't work. It's kind of corny. I'm sorry, I like the bleakness. In this movie, he exiles himself, and he specifically keeps his son out of this fight. Like, when I tell you Odysseus goes ham in this movie, this motherfucker takes on, like, I don't know, 13, 14 suitors. There were a lot of people. Some of them fucking gave up, which I get it after the first few scenes. But like, so he knows by doing this, he is going to lose his kingdom because you cannot kill people without running it through the proper channels. But he breaks Zeus's law to win the war, and he breaks Zeus's law to save his family. And it's a contrast of the first time he defied the gods, it was out of this greedy notion of wanting to take this city for a war that doesn't make sense over a girl, which it's not, and it's just about them getting the trade routes. Whereas the second time he breaks Zeus's oath, it's to save his family and to make his kingdom a better place. And it kind of gives you that message. And the interesting part about the movie is it does not condemn one side or the other. It's just looking at people and the way people are and how they choose to live. Okay. Oh, there is another adaptation. Helen of Troy TV adaptation. I'll check that out because that definitely sounds good. Yeah. I think if people want, and so I toyed with an interesting idea. I think, and I've got a soft spot in my heart for this movie. I honestly think that Troy and this movie could work like side by side. You could use Troy as the prequel and this movie as the sequel. I don't know. In my headcanon, that's what it is. I mean, they should have brought Sean Bean back as Odysseus. I would have fucking lost my mind. But we all know Sean Bean doesn't come back unless he's gonna die. So, and Odysseus doesn't die. So, I guess they couldn't ask Sean Bean to come and play the role. Anyways, that's besides the point. But as I was saying, Nolan chooses to tackle the theme of the poem, which I think the poem itself, and like, look, this is a literary. This isn't even really a story per se. It's more of poems that are told out of order. So I think that trying to make this into a story is a fucking nightmare to begin with. But I think that Nolan picked a theme that really works well with the material that he's adapting it from. And I'd almost say a lot of what he puts into this movie is more faithful than some of the adaptations that I've seen, especially even though the 97 movie is one of my favorite movies and I have a fondness for it right along with it. I do think that this movie has more of a stronger thematic pull towards it because it gives you this sense of hope with like everything that's going on and with how mean and fucking nasty people are these days. And the irony is, what the movie is talking about is what people are still fucking doing on the internet by attacking this movie and not even giving it a chance. It is literally talking about man's perception. And there's even a clever moment with, once again, Elliot Page, one of the best moments that they perform. Seno is the name. And there's a funny moment where Matt Damon basically tricks Sinon into having to present this Trojan horse and doesn't tell Sinon that he's going to die doing it. And he gives up his life for it. And they have a little exchange before they all get into the fucking horse. And he goes to him, hey, could you do me a favor? Can you tell my father and the people I love that I fought valiantly and that should I die, that I fought valiantly and that I did everything that was asked of me. And then as Matt Damon's walking away, or Odysseus, we'll say Odysseus, it's just easier. Then Seno goes, wait. And Odysseus turns back around and goes, maybe exaggerate it a little bit. So here's the part where the whole Achilles angle comes in, is that actually it's telling how stories get changed. And so when you hear this line and it's out of order and you go into the future of what's happening now, you're hearing these tales of like Achilles and these amazing warriors that did all of this crazy shit and they burned this down and they were surrounded by 200 people. And none of it's true. Because the stories are only told by the people who live to tell them. And that's kind of the point of the movie as well, is that a lot of what people are interpreting is bullshit. And so going back to the talk with Anne Hathaway or Penelope and Odysseus, he drops the bomb that these sea people that are pillaging and killing all of these people, that everybody's preparing for these sea people to invade them. He and his men are the sea people. I know, right? So they broke Zeus's law. And after they did that, it deconstructed the foundation of law. And that's the point. And rumors spreaded that people who violate Zeus's law are going to come and fucking take your goat and kill your kids and fucking murder your wife. But it's not true. Odysseus is the sea people that they keep on talking about throughout the whole entire movie. And it's fucking brilliant. Because the way Nolan shoots it and frames it and telling the story out of order, I keep on waiting for these fucking sea people to show up, right? It's a whole big fucking thing. Like, Theseus goes to visit Agamemnon's brother to find out where his father is. And he's talking about the sea people. And he's talking about what him and the father did in Troy. But neither of them are putting together that they're the same fucking people. Their actions in Troy spread the rumor that they were violating law in order to win, and they were breaking the code of the gods. It's just like, it's one of those things that's small and honestly is like not the biggest plot point, but it's so brilliantly weaved throughout the whole entire story that you as a viewer are waiting for the sea people. And then when Odysseus is sitting down and he's telling them who the sea people are, you still are fucking shocked. Because I was like, oh, that's right. They were lost at sea. They are the sea people. They never made it home. But the stories have them as these villains. When in reality, it was Odysseus and his men who just couldn't fucking find their way back. Like, they attacked the Cyclops. They went to the land of the giants. They fucking went through Hades. So they're going through and basically defying the gods, which is getting back to people. And it's being interpreted as they are this threat that's coming, but there's no threat. It's been Odysseus the whole time just trying to get the fuck back home. Brilliant. And it's at that moment I knew the movie was going to be a 9 because I had been following this thread and I was locked the fuck in, like keeping every detail in my mind. And it's about like almost 30 minutes left in the movie. And I'm like, where the fuck are these sea people? Like, are they even going to bring this up? Like, are we going to see some cool thing? Like these guys come to shore and they just start fucking pillaging. And that's why Odysseus has got to get back to his wife. And it's no, Odysseus is the villain in the story, but he's also the hero of the story, depending on how you hear it. And they contrast both versions of the story. And if you want to take it a step further, it's kind of like the fucking online discourse. Which I swear to God, I know Nolan shot this before, stuff coming out, but I swear to God, it's Nolan trolling everybody because it fucking works on a meta level of it's all in how people perceive you. And I think that is what also hit me in the feels because it's such a fucking great payoff if you've been watching everything that's going on in the movie. And it's such a fucking mind-blowing thing that he's both the villain and the hero of his own story, which is a big theme if you watch Christopher Nolan. I mean, hello, Dark Knight. They literally say that people are only the heroes of their own tale. It's like a fucking famous line. But he literally makes it a plot point and puts it on screen in such a brilliant way that it fucking blew my mind. And even the wife that like has like tears in her eyes hearing this, because she's thinking the fucking worst and hasn't seen Odysseus in forever. And so it works on so many levels, especially considering that he becomes this fucking monster almost at the end of the film. So now, major spoilers, because I gotta dive deep into the ending and how it got me into tears. The ending of this scene where Odysseus locks all the doors. And if you've read the Odyssey or you've seen the 97 movie or any rendition, you know what's coming. And I'm not going to say they nail the action, but the emotion and the payoff for the scene fucking hits. When you see him put the bars on those doors and they all look around, and even the way Matt Damon acts it out, and I think the 97 movie does it slightly better because there's a saying in the show where he goes, "A man is patient before he attacks." And I really wish they put that in this movie. I think it would have fit, but I'm not a fucking movie writer. Whatever, it's a small gripe, but still it builds up. But when he takes that bow and you see the suitors who have been treating him like shit because he's a beggar the whole time, and you see those fucking doors lock, I can't describe to you how many people in the theater were fucking like sitting up. Some people were like going, "Oh shit." I literally heard a guy go like, "Oh shit." When he locks those doors and he says, "Let me try." And they're fucking mocking him right to the point of him actually starting to string the bow, because there's a very specific way that since he was a child, this bow is like custom made. And like in the actual story, I believe the bow was given to him by a god of some kind. There's like some kind of like mythic reason for the bow that only he can string it. And there's a particular way that he does it that makes it easier. And when he strings that bow, I have got to say, the first motherfucker he kills is so satisfying and pretty gnarly. Like the first few kills, and this is where I said it's not completely bad, but it's just very jarring. Some people he fights is out of frame and out of focus, and that's what I meant when I said it had jarring camera angles. And it kind of sucks because the first 2 or 3 people he kills, it's fucking epic. This dude, so he strings the bow, he shoots the arrow through the axes, hits the fucking back of the board. Everyone realizes they are completely and totally, utterly fucked. Like, and the acting in this scene, Robert Pattinson's look is fucking priceless. Like, he shit his pants. Like, everyone has literally seen a ghost. And this is where I say, I guess having top tier does help, because everybody's faces is that holy shit moment when you've done something and you realize you're about to be fucking rocked. And this guy doesn't even get a fucking chance to say anything. And it's probably my favorite kill in the whole movie, which is why I had to go into spoilers for it. But he looks up and he's like, "You're Odysseus." And right as soon as he fucking finishes the Odysseus, you just see a fucking arrow enter his neck and stay there. And then he gargles like blood for a couple of minutes. It's like a while, and then fucking drops. And everybody starts fucking running. And the crux of the test is that the weapons were all taken off of the walls so no one could get to them, and they're all locked up. And there's kind of a little side plot with this piece of shit guy who's working for them, who's trying to get the weapons to these guys so they can fucking defend themselves. And when I tell you Matt Damon goes ham in this is where those fucking ripped fucking abs and beefy muscles come in, because Matt Damon fucks people up. There's a scene where he takes the bow and he uses the string and wraps it around the guy's neck, like onto his arm like this, shoots the bow, kills the guy to the left, fucking pile drives. I can't even say a fighting technique. It's just a straight up like fucking suplex, but not really. It's more of he took the bow and slams them onto the ground, and then they're throwing weapons to him. And as they're throwing weapons, he's taking the weapons that they're trying to get to the other people and using them against everybody. And he's just fucking taking arrows and he's fucking stabbing people with an arrow without the fucking bow. He's fucking taking the arrows and stabbing them. People use a sword. He disarms them, breaks their arm, fucking slashes their throat. He is going ham. And now I mentioned Mia Goth was not that great in this movie. She plays the handmaiden of Penelope, or opposite of Anne Hathaway. Not saying she's bad. I'm just saying they grossly misused her because she has amazing acting range. But this one scene, she fucking sells. So this handmaiden betrayed Anne Hathaway, Penelope. And so she's been fucking the one suitor who wants to marry the queen, Pattinson's character, douchebag, as I call him. And so as they're locking the doors, you see, and I'll give it to Mia Goth, she fucking, her face is like, and she goes, aren't you? And she's like, you have chosen your place, and fucking locks the door. And I gotta say, man, that shit was bananas. Absolutely fucking crazy. And they don't shy away from it, man. Everybody in that room fucking dies. If you were a fucking, it does not matter. If you were a toddler that sided with this rebellion, you're not fucking getting out of the room. He fucking murders everybody. And Matt pulls it off. My man has 2 fucking arrows in his, like, he's got an arrow in his back. He's got an arrow on his side. Someone fucking, like, got him in his throat. And he is like, and I said this to Bitchy when I was talking to her about it. It felt like a man possessed. And there's something clever Nolan does where every time you hear lightning and thunder, the implication is it's Zeus. And for this scene, it goes completely black. And you hear this fucking roaring thunder of like Zeus giving his blessing and Matt Damon going fucking ham. Brilliant. A+, no notes except for fix the fucking camera. Because like I said, during the action, there were some cool moments I couldn't see because he uses some shaky cam and a lot of out of focus shots. But the choreograph itself and the fight itself is pretty fucking brutal. I like, yeah, it is bananas. It was absolutely crazy. I downloaded another film, The Return, that is only about Odysseus when he gets home. Oh, with Ralph Fiennes. I have to check that out too. But yeah, and it's the same bow. The bow is key. Yeah. Pretty much in any adaptation of the Odyssey, the bow is a big plot point because it's how she finally gets the suitors, like telling them like basically they have to string the bow to win her over. And so, man, they go ham. Now, there was a final moment that I had to talk about that why I gave this a 9. And call me a sucker for romance. I have a love. I'm engaged. I have a heart at times. But the dialogue. So after the big battle, right? Let me just point out first, Odysseus has been like sliced in the neck. He's got an arrow in his fucking shoulder, an arrow in the side, an arrow in the back. I honestly thought Nolan was going to fucking kill him. That's how well shot this was. And you see him like coming up. And my God, this is the part that got me. So his servants, the people who were with him, are kneeling and they're going doom, 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 doom as he's walking up the steps to see his queen. And she still hasn't put it together that it's Odysseus quite yet. Like she kind of has, but she's still not really sure because he shot the bow and did the thing. But you see it. And Anne Hathaway, can I just fucking glaze her one more time? Her acting is so fucking subtle, yet you see everything you need to see in her eyes. And like she's on the verge of tears, but not. And Matt Damon is fucked up and barely holding himself up. And as he gets to the top, I'm getting fucking choked up talking about it right now, right? He takes a knee. And in the movie, in the beginning of the movie, he was given the pen of Athena by his wife. And she said, no matter what happened, she would know it's him. And there's kind of a joke that's running in the movie on how the pen doesn't look like anything that's on him. It's like this fucking gold statue of Athena thing that you clip on. It's more for the ladies and their hair thing. And he even jokes on how it doesn't go with what he's going to wear. It was actually pretty fucking cute. And so he takes a knee and his hands are all fucking bloody and dirty. And like I said, the realism, fucking top notch. He looks like shit. Like he's got the fucking old man fucking Gandalf beard. He's dirty. He's muddy. He's fucking beaten down. And he kneels down after having not seen his wife. And he hands her the pennant. And as he hands it to her, fucking falls down. And I'm sitting here going, I don't remember Odysseus dying. Like, Nolan fucking got me, man. And he is like, and they have this monologue that is A, the best monologue in the film. B, I'm going to be paraphrasing the shit out of it because I very vaguely remember it. I'm going to go see the movie again, but it's along the lines of how he's waited all of this time to return home to his queen and how much he loves her. And then he's going towards the, like, he's seeing the light shit. And he's like, he goes, my journey is complete. I'm done. And she's like, don't die on me, blah, 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 you know, and Anne is going in. Anne is going in. There's not the fucking fake one tear. She's full on, like, there's tears, the eyes are red, the fucking mascara is getting messed up, whatever, you know, the back in the day fucking whatever they used for makeup back then. All right. It's all fucked, man. She is acting her ass off. And Matt Damon is reciprocating with this like low kind of monotone, but there's tears. My boy, he put the Visine in. I don't know, but there's like the single tear, you know, the dude tear. And then I hate to use the whole subversion of expectations, but then he hits her back with a line of, I'm not dead. We're going back home. And so the change in the movie is him killing the suitors. He is going to be exiled, but he didn't want his son to be exiled. And he realized his son was going to be a good ruler. So he makes his son, Thanocles, the ruler, and he exiles himself. But earlier in the film, he had made a promise that he was going to honor the death of his men, and he was going to go to the west to honor all of those who had died underneath him and do his exile there. And his wife chooses to leave with him, exiled, but together. And I don't know why, man. I can't tell you, but it's like one of those Lord of the Rings scenes when they're going to the elfin land and Frodo goes and he leaves with the elves and you realize he's going to fucking die or wherever the fuck the kingdom is. You guys know, you know, okay? That scene hit me. This scene fucking hit me hard because not only do they do the whole beautiful, like, he chooses his wife over his kingdom thing, but then they get into a philosophical thing about man and what it means for them and what the War of Troy actually symbolizes societally. And he says to her, he's like, I've seen the worst. And he goes, I've seen things destroyed. And he's like, the Bronze Era is dead. The belief that people had in the gods is waning. And he's talking not just about the gods, but about what they represent within their world, which is this thing they keep on saying about the law of Zeus. And it's not necessarily the law of Zeus, but it's like, do unto others if you would have done to you, that kind of a thing. Treat strangers as if they're gods, that whole spiel, right? But that isn't actually what he's talking about what he did may have broken the fabric of their world. And then Anne, once again, fucking VIP, looks at him and she says, that's just man. She goes, because he goes, when we're dead and we're buried and we're dust, who's going to carry on our tales? And she goes, there always be someone to carry on our tales. She goes, when we're dead and in the ground and dirt, new civilizations will rise. And somewhere along the lines, we'll hear this and continue that on. And it gives you this fucking like, oh, I'm getting choked up talking about it right now. It gives you like this sense of that no matter the bad shit that happens, right? No matter the hardship you go through, that it still gets better at the end of the day, right? This man lost his warriors. He was away from his family for 10 years. He went through hell and then got back home and still went through more shit. But the balance was his wife, because when he's ready to give up on fucking man itself, and he's still kind of down, right? Like, society's dead. We're entering a new era. I'm scared. And she tells him it's okay. Because that's people. That's humanity, right? We do shitty things. We war, we fuck, we eat, we love, we laugh. But we go on. And one day, when I pass away, I have my little girl, and she'll talk about me. So my memory isn't dead. And that's kind of the point of the movie, is that the interpretation is changed very specifically for a reason. And even him changing the movie makes sense to the theme, which is that, yes, this is a modern telling, but it's just a tell that's been reinterpreted by somebody else, that's been reinterpreted by somebody else. And only the people who were there know the fucking story. But if we don't talk about it, if we don't keep the story going, then it dies. I think humanity ceases to exist when people stop caring. When people stop like living by certain social constructs, when people feed into their baser instincts, that is when humanity's doomed. And so, yes, Phoebe, that's true. But yeah, so, yeah, it made me feel like it's when we give up on finding hope is when there's no hope left. And I think even if you watch this movie, and please leave in the comments below, I would be very curious to see if people pulled out some deep shit or if I'm just talking on my ass, I'm in my feels because the movie got me. Either way, good job for Nolan because you got me. But I really think, because I was so fucking locked into this movie while I'm watching it, I really think it left me, and I'm not the only one, because there were people crying. One random dude clapped, you know, the guy who claps and no one else's claps. That was funny. But there's a reason why I've heard a lot of people leaving the movie feeling this sense of like hope. And it's because specifically the best thing the movie does that I haven't felt, especially from a blockbuster movie, is this sense through the movie that there's still hope at the end of the day, or at least that's my interpretation, is that the theory of the gods is not like this all-powerful being scolding you for doing something wrong, but it's just a way you should live your life. And like, look, I believe in God, and I'm getting into this because it talks to, it's about the review, but I do believe in God myself, right? Some people don't. I don't fucking care, right? That's my personal belief, but I believe it because it gives me a sense of hope, structure, stability, and a feeling like I will be passing to another place. Like what I've done does matter in the cosmic scheme of things, right? And the message of the movie is along the same lines of how I feel as far as religion goes, is that religion is not necessarily just this thing that is supposed to be rigid and like, you're going to go to hell if you do this. It should be a guideline to how you live your life and wanting to be a better person, wanting to strive for better things, wanting more from yourself. And I think a lot of the things that are in the Bible and things like that, whether you believe they're true or not, or whatever, I think if not, it's just still good guidelines to life and how people should live. And some of it is even fucked up shit that's parables and stories and things that people can draw from. And I think that is what the movie is conveying, especially in the last scene too. Are the gods real? Well, he fucking went to a Cyclops island. There was a fucking giant creature that ate 6 people, okay? Like, yes, these things exist, and he confirmed them. But the will of the gods is not just there just to be this abstract, punishable, like, big brother thing watching you in the sky, right? It's also a way to keep people from their baser instincts. And as he's going through this journey, not only for himself, but from his own men, he starts to see the things in humanity that's ugly and disgusting. And I think the gods wanting him to get back to his love and things like that is more of a metaphor of you need that person who keeps you grounded, the person who keeps you balanced, or fuck it, even if you're not with somebody, something that keeps you grounded to your moral center. And I mean, call me crazy because I don't believe I'm off base. It's like almost fucking said an obnoxious amount of time in the movie, right? And I think that's really what Nolan's goal was when you left the theater. Like, it's not just about like the gods and all this stuff happens, but just fucking treat people with respect and decency. Live a good life. Like, hold on to what you love, because those are the things that are going to get you through it. And I think, honestly, this movie does not work without that connection that Damon and Hathaway have with their characters. Like, if there's no chemistry, this whole fucking thing falls apart. And kudos to both of them because they fucking bring it. Like, dude, like, you are just at a certain point going, can this man just fucking get back to his woman? Like, God, fuck, man, just let him have his happiness. But the irony of the whole thing is that he chose to delay his trip home because he didn't feel worthy of that love. So it was a catch-22. Because, yes, he did piss off the gods, and there was a point where they were like, fuck you, and Zeus was like, hey, bro, calm the fuck down. You got to let the man go home, right? And so when you get past that, and you find out that internally he is choosing not to face that pain and the actions of what he did in war and how he can come home and face his wife that he loves. Like, it's almost as if he doesn't feel worthy of the love she is going to return to him. But then there's a selfish side to it because he's also depriving her and their son. Like, he's depriving his son of knowing his father and his wife from having her husband, who she makes very fucking clear she loves, which I also got to give props to. The portrayal of their love is like very much like they don't try to put the spin on it and like, oh, she don't need him because he's a man. Like, you feel their love and like it's the crux of this story. And I think a lot of it doesn't work for me, especially that ending moment, without feeling that. And once again, these two I give fucking flowers to. But the point I was driving at is I think another strong theme is that sometimes when you're in a bad spot, and I've dealt with this personally in my life, you need those things to actually help get you out of the rut that you're in. And that people around you that love you and support you are actually what you might need instead of walling yourself off. And it just hit me, man. It just fucking hit me, because maybe I was projecting some of things I went through in my life, and I was just like, fucking yeah, let's go, Nolan, banger. But like, no, it was like, I fucking got it. And I was just sitting there going, man, I got to go home and hug the wife. Like, because like, especially those last moments when you see them and they sell off to the far off, north past the rising sun. It's a whole big theme in the movie. I was just like, man, I got out there. Like, I haven't full on cried in years. Okay. Endgame, Infinity War. Last time I shed like hard tears. Okay. And man, they got me. Yeah, PB. Anne is the point you want to be driving at. And I'm talking about bitchy PB. You know what I mean. Anyways, I call her the wife. Anyways, we've been together long enough. Anyways, and that isn't the point. The point is that I think that the important part of a movie when you're watching it is two things: how they invest you in the story and how you leave the story. Because if you have a really good beginning and you have a shitty ending, that taints the whole entire movie. And if you have a really terrible beginning, but a strong ending, people might not make it to that. Now, to be fair, the first 20 minutes of this movie are engaging, but I wouldn't call them, powerful or anything like that. But the end of this movie, that's the stuff. That's where, like, when you've been watching and paying attention and you see everything he's planted, from the fucking dog to this phrase they keep on saying, that like the law of Zeus, and in your mind, because he cleverly brings it up throughout the movie, it's important, and he plants that seed. But to have it all pay off in a meaningful way is just like, man, it's something I haven't felt. And this is what I talk about when I review movies, right? Is my biggest issue with modern filmmaking is like, where's the themes? Where's the shit we could talk about? That's why I like a lot of horror movies, is because horror these days seem to be tackling more cool and interesting shit, like Backrooms or Obsession, and how we could talk about toxic relationships and shit you could really sink your teeth into. And I felt that way leaving this movie, like the theme of war and the theme of love. And I would like to see what like people think, like, what did they pull out of the end of the movie? Like, did they take away something completely fucking different? Maybe they took away war sucks, we're all doomed. Like, one thing about Nolan I could say that still stays consistent to this very movie is that you will never leave a Nolan movie without something to talk about. Like, Oppenheimer is like, every movie he's ever made, I feel like there's always this like big room for discussion. And it's why I'm on 2 hours and 20 minutes and almost the fucking length of the movie. Because I could go on forever about different moments and what different things mean. But at the end of the day, this is a 9 out of 10 movie for me. And if Dune 3 is not a banger, which I think it's going to be, I would say this would be my number one for my top 10 movies. Just full stop. Like, I mean, we still got Spider-Man, but I'm sorry. Maybe I'm a movie snob. I love Spider-Man, but I don't put that, unless you're talking about like the last Spider-Man as far as acting goes. I don't put these kind of in the same category, because I feel like the caliber of line delivery and things like that, and the way the themes it actually has, it's kind of hard. But who knows? Maybe Brand New Day comes out and they're making a banger point. I don't know. I never count Spider-Man out. I've yet to see a bad Spider-Man movie. So I am super excited for this year. Like, I've only seen one bad movie so far. Fucking Moana. Fuck Moana. And what was the other movie I saw? It was so bad. Oh, I think The Strangers Chapter 3. Oh, that was this year. Fucking garbage. Oh, and Passenger. Oh, what another fucking trash movie. But other than that, really, right now on my worst list, I only have like 3 movies. On my best list, oh, Supergirl. It wasn't trash, but it wasn't very good. It's not going to go on my good movies. It's not going to go on my bad. It's just there. But like, this is the first movie I've seen that's a fucking legit banger. Like, I was locked in for 3. I can't. The last 4-hour movie I saw was like Endgame and Infinity War. Like, we just don't get these epics. And I promise you, this movie's got the sauce. This movie's got the stuff. Like, you do not feel that runtime at all. And that's the mark of a good movie. Like, people can talk shit who haven't seen this movie that are prejudging it, or people who have seen this movie and need hate clicks, so they just talk out of their ass. But the truth, okay, and I literally saw this noon. The truth of the matter is, my theater was packed. The next 3 IMAX showings are sold out. I can't get a ticket to IMAX at night if I fucking sold my left leg. And I think this movie is going to have a lot of people talking because it's good. I mean, I don't, like, right now, I got to see other movies. I mean, if I'm comparing Nolan to Nolan movie, I'm not going to say this is better than his other movies. My favorite movie of his of all time is Inception. Come at me. I don't care. It's fucking a masterpiece. Maybe Memento. That's a good movie. I'm going to do a ranking for you guys. So you can join me on a live stream where I'm going to rank every Christopher Nolan movie that he's come out with, because I've seen them all. But like, I've been talking about the fucking ending of Inception for the past fucking 10 years. I still talk about the ending of that movie, okay? So I'm not going to say, if we're comparing Nolan to Nolan, I'm not going to say it's that great. But if I'm comparing to Nolan to any fucking movie that's come out in the past 2 years, I would say this movie puts most of them to shame, especially with the slate we had in 2025 and 2024. There were some good movies, but blockbuster side really took a fucking hit. And I hate to admit this, and I don't know if Purple ever see this, but I have to give Purpose flowers. This made me realize that blockbusters aren't dead yet. Like, this is not just a blockbuster film, which it is, but it's a blockbuster film that you want to see. It's got the action, it's got the emotion, it's got the shit that you talk about at the end of the movie. It's got that scene where you're like, did you see that fucking scene? It's got it all. And I mean, it's not just one of the reasons why I like film, but it's one of the reasons why I go to movies. And I think there's something special in that. So if I got anything to say, go support this movie. And if you're bitching about never seeing good movies, then for the love of God, go and look for them. And don't believe the fucking hype that you hear. Just judge a movie by itself. This movie to me is worth it. It was great. 9 out of 10. Loved it. And I'm going to go back to see it next Saturday. So, anyways, with that, thank you, everybody. Hit that like, share, subscribe, all the YouTube things. Let me know what you thought. And if you've seen the movie, in the comments below, let me know what you think the theme is. Did you get something different? Did you? And are you a little bit disappointed with the historical accuracy or the adaptation accuracy? Be respectful in the comments. So let me know about that. And tell me who you liked in the film and who you didn't. But that'll do it for this guy. I will be back to talk about Evil Dead Burn. I have wanted to review it, but I'm kind of like still deciding on where it fits as far as my love for the Evil Dead. So I've been sitting on it for a little bit before I review it. So I will be reviewing that. You know what, PB? Anne deserves it. I love you, Anne, if you're watching this. Anyways, no, let me stop being creepy. No. Anyways, let me know in the comments below. Thank you. And as always, remember, there is only one rule here in the Phantom Zone. Kneel before General Odysseus.